You're listening to Raising Anchor, a Rhode Island FC podcast. We're glad you're here. Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrican, and this is my co-host, Jason Carey. Hey Jason, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good over here, buddy. You know how we do it here. Another rainy summer day.
The humidity only hit, 95% today? I only sweated through 2 layers of clothing. I won't tell you which layers.
That's a problem. Just do one.
I can't do the whole rock out with my guns out like you do with the tank tops. Like, this body is not to be showcased out in the public like that. So you can get away with it with your physique, but I know I don't need to end up on any criminal watch lists in the state of Rhode Island.
I mean, I'm still packing a little bit of a craft beer belly here,
I can tell you that I'm definitely a catch for certain members of the community. I had the privilege of recently running into, in a completely related soccer story, James Lance. For the listeners who don't know who James Lance is, that would be your independent reporter Trent Krim from Ted Lasso. I actually literally ran into him and snapped up a photo. I'll probably try to throw that on the socials at some point. But yeah, no, he was an amazing person, and he just wrapped his arms around me, and I don't know if, in his portrayal of the character on Ted Lasso, he had a certain projection of sexuality, which, spoiler alert, I may have just ruined that. So for Ted Lasso fans, you already had your chance. It's not a spoiler after what?
It's been out for a while, no, right?
Yeah, and that was season 2, so it's not a spoiler. Shame on you if you haven't already watched Ted Lasso. But the way he enveloped me in a hug for this photo, I don't think my partner, my girlfriend, has ever hugged me like James Lance hugged me. So thank you so much, James. I know you're obviously clearly a listener. I didn't tell him about the podcast. I should have. Could have had our first celebrity appearance besides Coach Cano.
Do you think he's actually a soccer fan? Or do you think maybe he's being part of that show?
So he's English. So you have to be.
He has to be.
Okay. You're indoctrinated. Like certain people, they get baptized, certain people get circumcised, and then other ones just get indoctrinated into the sport of football in England.
Yeah, but don't they actually, what they do there is if you don't like soccer, they actually export you to U.S., right? They're like, you need to leave.
Yeah, well, exactly. You're not one of the Queen's people or the King's people. Yeah, they kick you out. So, but yeah, so I got to see James Lance again, just living my best life in Rhode Island. So, for those of you that didn't get the opportunity, you should hang out with me some more often, and I'll run you into celebrities like Coach Cano or James. So
you never know who you're gonna run into at the folk festival.
Don't burn me out. I wasn't trying to tell people where I met him. I wanted to make them think I was just crossing the street in downtown.
I mean, you got to drive more than 12 minutes to do stuff, right?
So we have a really exciting episode today for the listeners. We had the pleasure of sitting down with the supporter group Defiance1636 and getting to spend a lot of quality time talking to them and getting to kind of understand their makeup and what we can anticipate coming into the 2024 season for Rhode Island FC. And we're going to be really excited to share that content with you today. The interview was actually so long, in a good way, that we were able to break it up into 2 parts. So this is going to be one of our first continuations where you'll have to be left on the edge of your seat waiting for the next week's release.
So it's not like a serial type thing where we normally do. You're going to have to wait till the next season comes out.
I mean, I could break these into 30-minute podcast sessions, and then they only get 5 minutes of interview per question, and the listeners never get to actually appreciate the whole content of the interview in one single listening.
And then just have where we're relapping over each other, and it's next time on Raising Anchor.
You spend 5 minutes retelling what you're about to hear or what you've already heard, and then it's only 5 additional minutes of content. Yeah, I love that idea. That's a perfect filler option for us. So we're going to split that into 2 parts. So you'll hear us at one point kind of switch over and play that recording. I will apologize to listeners now. We recorded that session in a bar which maybe at the end of the day wasn't the best idea. But the reason we did that was we wanted to record it in Defiance1636's kind of home base, which is the craft burger and beer restaurant in Pawtucket. And, doing that, we kind of knew maybe it wasn't going to be the best idea. We were really hopeful. So the audio is not as great as what you're listening to right now. So just kind of set that up as I don't want to say warning because it's not like they're going to hate it, but
temper your expectations. I think anyone who's, seen some live interviews and whatnot should understand that when you go out into the field and you interview people, you can't, lock yourself in a closet like we are.
Oh, I think next time I'm absolutely going to lock those gentlemen into a closet with me to get a better sound quality. So, Irvin, Joe, watch out. We're going to do a closet recording next time.
In a Sonicast.
Exactly. So, but before we jump into that interview, we do have a lot of exciting club news. Lots of stuff is happening really fast, and we're really excited to kind of share that information with the listeners. Again, this is a little old, like by the time you hear this, but for the person that's not consuming Rhode Island FC content on the daily, we're really excited to bring this information to you. So, Jason, what's the biggest, hottest breaking news going on right now?
So we got a press release here, stadium back on.
Wait, what? The stadium? No, but the stadium was off. Remember, all those people said,
hasn't it been on? Just turn it on, you leave it on?
No, the stadium was never going to happen. Remember all those angry people on Facebook that said the stadium couldn't possibly happen? It was a sham of a project.
Well, too bad for you guys. They turned it back on. So, just going to go through this here. So Fortuitous Partners announced today that it has secured the final needed equity investment and has letters of commitment from lenders committed to providing private financing in accordance with the terms of the developer's public-private partnership with the City of Pawtucket and the State of Rhode Island. Fortuitous Partners is developing the Tidewater Landing Project in Pawtucket and has invested nearly $30 million of private capital into the construction of the project. This is getting expensive.
For them, not for the city, which is the important thing to call out here. This is all privately secured funds, not an additional drop of money or blood or sweat is coming from the taxpayers of the city.
So once complete, the private investment in Tidewater Landing will represent the largest investment of private capital in any development in Rhode Island in over a century.
That's insane. Like, we've seen projects come and go, but I think when I read that part,
this is kind of a big deal.
It's not a big, it's the biggest. It's the biggest deal. There's never been this kind of infusion of money and support into a project in this state. And that, I just, kudos again to the group behind this.
All right, so continuing on, we are committed to Rhode Island and have been from day one. The Tidewater Landing Project will transform downtown Pawtucket and provide state residents with a team that is for all of Rhode Island, said Brett Johnson, co-founder and chairman of Rhode Island FC. The global pressures on development are real, but we have believed in this project from the beginning and have put tens of millions of private investment into the project to get it started. Now that the private funding has been secured, we are excited to complete the stadium through the public-private partnership with the city and state. Despite global financial challenges, the Fortuitous Partners development team raised another $14.5 million of private equity over the last 2 months without taking on any additional debt. That's huge.
Can you get me $14.5 million?
Yeah, how do you do that?
How do you just... Man, we are in the wrong job.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing here, but...
We're counting pennies and they're playing with Monopoly stacks.
Okay, so the additional equity investment announced today signifies the completion of the development team's equity raise, and both the stadium and Rhode Island FC are fully capitalized. In all, Fortuitous Partners and Rhode Island FC have combined to raise $50 million in private equity. Along with the announcement that it has closed the private equity raise, Fortuitous Partners has signed commitment letters to fund the private debt required in the terms of the development's public-private partnership. The loans will close simultaneously with the underwriting of Pawtucket Redevelopment Agency bonds this fall. Fortuitous Partners has secured all outstanding requirements required by the city's bond underwriters.
So the money's been released. at this point. I mean, maybe it's not physically exchanged hands, but we've done it. We've met all of the requirements. The public funding can now be released to us. We can set up for whatever needs to happen in terms of the next steps. I think what the presser doesn't say is that they've announced that the construction will now resume this fall to get us back on track for a 2025 season. And for all intent and purpose, I haven't heard anything about needing to delay further. Like, why? Just pick one or
English
the
language,
other.
it's great, isn't it?
There, and there. But yeah, so the construction will resume, and we will be on track for that 2025 season. So super excited about that. I know when we did the first episode, we got a lot of pushback around like, how could you even talk about that news that the stadium was off? We never thought it was, but again, for the listeners out there that maybe don't comb through everything that's been announced in, local news agencies, articles, or their, racist aunt's Facebook. Sometimes it's just important to make sure that we share everything that we get, good or bad, about the club. And this is absolutely good. This is the most fantastic news that we could ever ask for. So I'm all ahead full. Like this is now we don't have to say this anymore. Remember how you had joked like we're gonna have to like bring this up? We don't have to bring it up anymore. It's happening.
I don't know, the meteor that's projected.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That or when aliens come and abduct us all, so we don't even get to enjoy soccer, right?
Yeah, stadiums are actually the next item on the list for cancel culture. So
but that started when baseball stadiums were already doing their thing with like spending way more money than what the city had committed to, and then like the attendance just drawed the draw wasn't there unless it's. I mean, and if you've seen baseball, right? Like after a certain point in the season, usually post All-Star game. If you're not going to make it in,
if your team's under 500, you're
ghost towns. Ghost towns.
Showing up.
At least with football, like gridiron football, fans show up still for their, unless it's like maybe the Browns.
It's a short season too. It's easier to just say, hey, let's get through this, support our team, have a good time. Baseball is you're playing multiple games a week, so it's a very different sport.
I would not be surprised if in our lifetime we saw the game of baseball get reduced down to more meaningful games, to not, because again, like those stadiums are 60,000, 40 to 60,000 capacity places. They're not going to get filled up. And when it's like, look at Oakland. So when Oakland did their try to save the Oakland A's thing, only half the stadium was filled with people who said like, hey, we're going to show up to show you that we still love this club. Like, They didn't even have enough people, and that's why they're still heading to Las Vegas. So for whatever it's worth, we don't have that problem. We have a 10,000-plus stadium that we need to worry about filling up, and we are on our way to do just that.
Yeah, I think we will have no problems with all the fervor that seems to be around this club.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And so, not only do we have great stadium news, but we also have, I think, one of the most important announcements that we'll have heard from a technical perspective, and I bet you, like in the long game, this will be completely overshadowed or forgotten. But I think it's probably the most important thing that the club could announce in terms of developing a championship side project, and that is that Rhode Island FC has acquired a partnership with a data-driven analytic company. To become the second U.S. club to actually use this company's sports intelligence solution system and optimize their club operations both on the pitch and in the front office itself. So they've partnered with I should have looked it up. Do you think it's IterPro or IterPro? I'm going to say IterPro.
I think probably IterPro.
Like Inter. Yeah, I'm going to say so. They've partnered with IterPro Sports Intelligence, and they are an analytics company that is designed just to deliver just that. The main focus of this collaboration will lie on the shared vision of empowering athletes, coaches, and directors with cutting-edge technology that enables them to access strategic information at their fingertips. Through Interport's Sports Intelligence Program, Rhode Island FC's coaching staff will gain a deeper understanding of player performance, monitor their fitness and wellness levels, which we've talked about that can be the Achilles heel, literally, of a club, especially at identifying injury risks, and then develop personal training plans tailored to the individual player's needs. Like, I really feel when you start to see a club get injury prone, the first thing, I think we even touched on this a little bit, is like, what was their diet? how hard were they being worked, when was the wrong time to put stress on whatever that potential injury was, or did they not even see it coming? Like, analytics is the key to soccer moving forward. Like, you can talk whatever formation you want, but it's truly driven by like XG and analytics that support those things. It's insane.
Yeah, as we, as we try and play catch up with the rest of the world and try and get to their level in terms of how soccer is played and how we're following and diets and whatnot, the technology part is huge. You see, like, anytime you watch a European game, they pivot over the coaches and they've got like tablets there and they're like replaying various formations, or some of them they can even get like instant replays of things that just happened to kind of break down and figure out like, hey, what just happened there.
Agreed. And from that perspective, I think that getting this secured ahead of the season, I don't really understand the impacts to the club organization piece. I didn't even think that was a thing that they needed. I thought that was just like business 101. But knowing that they're going to use it for both systems, it's just a huge win. And the fact that we're the second U.S. club to partner with this group, I want to know, what do the other teams, both in our league and our divisions, as well as the other clubs in, Division 1, what are they utilizing? Because when I went and checked the pedigree on this company, they're not pushovers. They're not like upstart, like trying to secure a name. They already sponsor premier club teams, former premier club teams. And
they seem pretty popular in Italy. There's a lot of Italian clubs.
A lot of Serie A. I mean, AC Milan is their biggest customer. And I don't know, where did we last see AC Milan? What game did we see them playing? Do you remember? Was it was Champions League knockout?
Oh, yeah, against Inter?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but like not a lot of clubs make it into that level of Champions League play there. So
yeah, I mean, I imagine realistically there are some other companies that do this too. I'd be curious, like, how many of the USL teams have these technology partnerships? That's
exactly what I want to know next is, like, are we just, again, investing in the right things to just dominate the league? Or is this just picking one, like the Capelli Sport jersey conversation where we're just one manufacturer, we're one vendor? Is that something that will be like, oh, whose analytics program was better, or are we just ahead of the tide?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is this the standard? That'd be curious to know. I don't know. We'll have to, pick some USL nuts brains, see if we can figure some of this stuff out.
Agreed. All I know is it's exciting to know that that's on its way, and I cannot be happier with the news that we get to announce today to the listeners. So great things ahead for all parties involved, and I'm just looking forward to, again, that 2024 season. But we can't be living in the 2024 season just yet, because we got to focus on what's going on in the 2023 USL season. So before we jump into the scores, it's like this is just like a running joke over the last few weeks. We have yet another expansion club. Oh, I guess you can count it as expansion, but North Carolina FC is rejoining the league after I guess a self-imposed hiatus. They chose to go down to League One for a while to restructure their financials, to understand where they could be more of a complete club and deliver on what USL expects at the championship level from a total operation perspective. They've been dominating USL 1, and now they're saying, "Hey, we're back, boys. What did we miss?"
Can't say I've heard of any self-relegation before. Not something too often. You don't hear about that too often with them just sending down. It sounds like maybe it does make sense for them to kind of restructure, and now it sounds like things worked out and they're going to come back up, and good for us because we're even odd number of teams now. We'll be even.
I agree. I mean, that puts FC Tulsa completely in the West. There's no question now. Or before, when it was only one team, it had that kind of lens on us. I'll be really curious if when we start the season, where will we be looked at now? Because when we were entering as the solo act, there were going to be eyes. I've said that a bunch of times, where new shiny toy, what will they do? But now we'll have competition. And weirdly enough, it will almost be a story of, the pro-rel model, right? Because they they're not, for what we understand so far, they're not changing much in the core of that team. So they're bringing them up from USL 1 mostly as is. So that tells me if they can compete, then USL 1 is just as viable potentially. And I think they've been like murdering teams in USL 1. I don't think it's been very I think it's been very one-sided in that league right now. But if they can compete at that level, it shows, again, more ammunition for like, hey, yeah, you may go down, but the sports product that you provide and the competitive factors you display, they don't change that much from league to league. So it's like really like you could go down and then you could come right back up. So I'll be really curious to see how we get compared next season as a result of that. And it'll just be really interesting to watch now that we have, and it's in our league, right? So I almost kind of want to say like, we'll go see them for one of the games now. And just in case like they self-relegate themselves again at the end of the next season. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of once you get back up, you're not going to send yourself back down willingly.
Especially when I bet you they had to get that done with the pro-rel conversation taking place. They're like, well, we better get back in there before they say, hey, you're going to stay down there and work your way back through, even though they won the league or they're in the process of winning the league. I think it's not even close right now on the table. Yeah, but it would just be really good to see them. And I wish they were still the Railhawks instead of, again, North Carolina FC. Like, come on, like you're better than that.
Too safe with the names here,
NCFC, that just it's like super close to NYCFC. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But yeah, so that's where we're at with the news that we had to bring up to the listeners today. So where are we at on the USL scores, Jason?
All right, so another week here. Both of our teams that we picked, they both lost.
So I want you to know two things. One is, ever since I became a fan of the Train Gang, El Paso Locomotive hasn't won a single game.
I think you're jinxing them. Maybe
those fans are in.
Have you got some hate mail yet?
So those fans are in like just an uproar. In fact, it's so bad for that club right now that one of their like core like centerpieces to their formation, who they had just announced on a multi-year contract extension, immediately left the club and departed for a team in like their homeland. And like everyone's baffled right now because it's like, well, you just announced like 2 months ago this person was ours for 2 or 3 years, and they left 35 days later. They're not winning any games. So then not only is my Train Gang off the rails, but then in the last man standing bid, I was looking at the table, and RGV had wiped the floor with us, which we were like strongly in third place in the playoffs. But as I started watching USL, I was like, RGV is on a hot streak. Like, they can't paste us and not keep that up against the last place team in the league, which was the Lights. Guess what? RGV lost to the Lights. Knocked me out of the playoff. Knocked me out of that playoff game in the Discord channel. So I tried to invest. I tried to give you a little bit of love, and I was double burned this week.
It's up and down. What are you gonna do?
It was all down. There was no ups. I haven't experienced an up since we started this. It's terrible, but I stick to it.
You just have to embrace the chaos.
Train down. But so how are those tables looking? Who's in first in the entire league?
Okay.
Is it still Riverhounds?
So in the entire league, we're looking at the Sacramento Republic.
Oh, Sac Republic.
But so they are tied with Pittsburgh. They both have 44 points. Sacktown has played one less game though.
So it's that game in hand.
That game in hand.
Okay.
Yeah, they got the better goal difference.
So then who do you want to start with, the West or the East on the rundown?
Yeah, I got Eastern here on top. So Pittsburgh Riverhounds, followed by Charleston Battery, Tampa Bay Rowdies, Louisville City FC, Memphis 901, Birmingham Legion, FC Tulsa, and Indy 11. So it's still pretty tight though there.
Wait, Indy 11 still holding on for dear life, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's
Hartford at?
Parity is, I mean, they're in the basement.
Oh, so they're still trapped. They're in the well, and the serial killer's putting the lotion in the basket and handing it down.
I mean, they did win this last week. Don't tell anyone.
They need a little bit of hope, right, to crush the spirits further.
Yeah, let's head over to the West. We've got Sacramento Republic FC, San Antonio FC, Oakland Roots, San Diego Loyal, Orange County SC, Colorado Springs Switchback FC, El Paso Locomotive still in 7th, and follow right behind them with Phoenix Rising.
Again, we were in 3rd at the beginning of this podcast journey, and we are almost at the playoff line now.
It's only 5 points difference.
Doesn't matter. With the way we're playing, might as well be 5,000. Oh man, Rhode Island FC cannot show up fast enough. But I appreciate that. Do you RGV? I mean, I know they lost, but are they?
So they're still 11th. So
what's the point spread?
They haven't moved, but they have 27 points. They're tied with Monterey Bay FC, who also has 27 points.
Oh, so they're basically in 10th. They're not even in 11th.
And then New Mexico has 28, and Phoenix Rising has 29.
Okay, so they just got like two teams they got to jump over.
Yeah,
easy.
they're in the mixer there.
Oh my God, what if El Paso and RGV end up fighting it out for the 8th place spot this year?
Ooh, and they have to play each other on the final day. That would be too good.
You know what? I'm going to check the schedule. I don't know. I know they've already played, obviously, at RGV. I don't know if they've had that home game yet at El Paso Stadium. So I'm going to find out that. Ooh, man. Oh, man. All right. Well, appreciate the recaps on the tables. Always fun to kind of check in and see where the league is performing. But I think now is a perfect time for us to kind of put the podcast into autopilot for the first time and allow our listeners to really just take in the interview that we had the chance to speak with Joe and Irvin from Defiance1636. As a preemptive warning, we apologize about the audio. It's going to get better. Okay, we're learning how to do this as you're learning how to tolerate us and listen to us. So it's a journey. All right. And so we're going to kind of let this take off, and then we'll pick things back up at the end of part 1 of the Raising Anchor Defiance 1636 interview. So sit back and enjoy. We're here at Craft Burgers and Beer in Pawtucket with 2 of the founders of Defiance 1636, the supporters group of Rhode Island FC. Joe, Irvin, welcome to Raising Anchor. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Great. Yeah, doing great.
Nice to be here.
Awesome. Great to see you guys. Great to be here. It's a wonderful afternoon here in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Jason, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good, buddy. Just drinking a purple beer over here, you know?
Oh, we're going to tell the audience that we're just here. The lads are having some drinks.
Yeah. The lads abroad.
Awesome. So we are privileged today to be able to sit down with some of the best human beings I've had the chance to meet so far. And really, the point of this interview is to get the listeners in touch with, who Defiance 1636 is, who the people are behind this important supporters group for the club, and a little bit more information about how the club will operate and what we can expect to see in the inaugural season of 2024. So it's only fair to turn this interview over to you gentlemen and ask some basic things. So I'll start with you, Irvin. What's the background? Who are you as a person? What should the listeners know about you? And most importantly, what I want to know is, how did you fall in love with soccer?
That's a long story. But just to give you guys a rundown, so my love of soccer started with my father. Started at a young age, watching it in the living room, watching the World Cup, watching anything that was pretty much on. So at that point, it was like a little bit of MLS, little Liga MX, and then of course watching Liga de Guatemala occasionally on when we can, because I know like at the time when I was getting into soccer, the Guatemalan games were not being streamed at all on cable television. So it was only right to know about it on the news, basically, like through newspapers and stuff. So that's like the fall in love part of it. After that, I just been a Revolution fan for years because it was the only local team here. Fell in love with it more and more and more. Got back to it in high school, played at a varsity level for a little bit, but it was mostly junior varsity that I played. After I finished high school, kind of stopped playing it, but I was very much into like the whole watching it. So I've been like a season ticket holder for the Revs since 2013. So even to this day, but this year will probably be my last year as a Revs season ticket holder. And I'm
you don't want to hold out for that. That
what's crazy? I was talking to myself about like maybe paying that extra, $480 that they want for the 4 tickets.
Are you paying anything extra if you can sell that ticket later for $12 million?
I don't know. I mean, they said that it's technically not transferable, but I know my ways. I've sold my season tickets before. So it's not like it's that hard.
Just take a screenshot of the QR code.
No, it's like you can just send them through the email. It's not that hard. But yeah, back to the whole loving of soccer. It's been in my blood. My family's played it. My dad played in his country. Played for his local team, Zacapa Deportivo. So did my uncle. He was actually they both played defense. And if you go back to like the lineage of my family, my uncles, my grandfather, they all played soccer in La Barrio. So like that area is all Guatemaltecos jugando fútbol. So like it's soccer is a love for us. So that's how I fell in love with it. I wasn't the best player, but supporting, I knew that I had a big mouth, which you'll definitely find out throughout the podcast. So I can definitely cheer. I can definitely sing. I can definitely try to play instruments. You just give me something to do, and then I'll give you the best atmosphere that I can.
What's your best instrument? Is it a triangle like mine?
Oh, man, if you give me the drum, I'll bang the damn thing until it has a hole in it. So, yeah, but my best instrument is my voice for sure.
What position did you play?
I was a left winger.
Okay.
So I was
attacking minded. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. How about you, Joe?
I'm Joe, and like Irvin, I grew up in a very Guatemalan background, and it's really interesting because, as you said, Guatemalans are very much in love with soccer in a way that you just won't find in the States. I remember going to Guatemala for the first time very recently, and I was in my cousin's neighborhood, and we just went outside and say, hey, want to go play some ball? And I was like, okay, I'm down. And we went out, and they had this mini pitch right outside their door that we just went out, and we just had a good time, the three of us. And then this random kids come up, and they're like, hey, can we join you guys? And they're like, oh yeah, come along. Like, these kids that we haven't seen before, that we don't know if we're going to see them again, but we just wanted to have a good time playing some football. And that's why it's a beautiful game. You can just go out, just grab a ball, and that's really all you need.
So it sounds like there's some significant Latin influence here for both of you. Do we call it soccer or do we call it football?
You can call it whatever, man. I mean, we're American born and Guatemalan raised, so I mean, whatever you want to call it. Because even sometimes my dad said, "Oh, voy a mirar el soccer. You know, I'm gonna watch the soccer game. Voy a mirar el fútbol." So like, so whatever happens, and I mean, it doesn't really matter because whatever you want to call it, the beautiful game. In the end of the day, everybody knows it as the beautiful game.
Great answer. So I think, before we get too deep into this, we should probably take a step back. And for the listeners that for the first time are hearing, because we've name dropped you several times on multiple episodes, but they may be asking themselves, what a supporter group is. And so I thought maybe, in your own voices, you guys could take a second here to explain to those fans, those new listeners, what does that mean? What is a supporters group? What is your supporters group going to be in terms of the beautiful game? And then whoever answers that question, I'm going to deflect to the other person. What do you think maybe are some things that a veteran might not know about supporters group? Maybe someone that's attended multiple games and they see what that means, but like they actually don't know the further details, the more intimate things about what a supporters group makes up.
Well, I mean, I can answer the first one. So for those of the people that don't know who we are, I mean, we are the supporter group, and some people don't know what supporter group means. So it goes by different names. You can call us ultras, fanatics, barra brava. You can call us by a lot of names. But at the end of the day, we are the guys that are with the drums, the smokes, the flares, the flags, the banners, the passion. We are the ones that are going to always scream louder than the guy that buys the normal ticket. We're the guys that are going to be singing 90 minutes and a break for 15 for that second half, and then we're back onto the march. And we're the ones drinking in the parking lot. We're the ones singing till dusk, till dawn, and we're the ones that wear the colors on our sleeves till we die. We're the ones that are literally going to be buried with a jersey at the end of our lifetime, and then hopefully seeing family still play soccer up, and we'll still be cheering them in the afterlife. So that's who we are. We're the ones that wear the team in our heart, and not just on the jersey. Like, it's el corazón, it's a passion de soccer.
Okay, that's a great answer. Irvin got the easy one. I feel like, Joe, what's something a veteran of the sport might not know about what a supporters group is?
Well, when you think supporter group, usually what you think is all the stuff that Irvin just described. You go to a game and you look behind one of the goals, or in the middle if you're a Hartford Athletic fan. That's so crazy. You look behind the goal and you see these guys with smoke. They have drums, raising these huge flags. And you're like, hey, that looks pretty dope. But there's a lot that I've learned that goes on behind the scenes. You might see, just on game day, you might see just a TIFO go up it's a huge banner going up, being raised. But really, there's a lot of work that goes into those. You need people to paint it, you need someone to design the whole thing, and of course you need to pay for all those materials. And there's really a lot that goes into the people who play the drums, the people who, fly the flags, and as well as other stuff that the group might do beyond the pitch, such as doing, let's say, a couple events outside of the stadium. There's plenty that goes on just beyond what you see on game day.
Nice. So it's more of an organized party. It's not like you guys just show up. So in terms of the history, how did the supporter group form? And did you guys actually know each other before so?
We did.
He can answer that one for sure.
Where we first met was, previously we knew each other through Discord, because we were both Revolution fans, but we already knew each other through Discord server for the Revolution, but we didn't really know each other until we were both taking a little vacation up to Toronto for an away game last year, and that's where we properly, met each other, and we got to meet for the first time, and we didn't really talk to each other much until, the RAFC news came back to life, and we were talking about, hey, there's no supporter group around. What's with that? I need to get on this myself. And I went to Irvin because I knew he would be the perfect guy to do this with. And I was like, hey, man, let's do this. And from that moment, he was like, all right, man.
It was fun. It was funny. Because we had pretty much similarities. We're actually from the same area of Guatemala as well. We're both from Zacapa, and it's crazy. We were always bonding about we're both Guatemalans. We're the only Guatemalans in the group for the Revolution. So we fell in love with that way. And then when I saw him in Toronto, and we kind of we didn't talk too much. We took pictures with the Guatemalan flag that I brought. And then after that, when I saw the Twitter, he basically I said at first I just wanted to be a graphic designer. I said I'll help you make the banners. I'll help you make all that stuff. And he said, dude, it's me. It's okay, cool. Why don't you just join in with me? And then that's when we kind of became the co-founders of it. And after that, we just opened up to the public, held a voting of what we wanted the logo to be. And sure enough, here we are, Defiance 1636.
So speaking of the name itself, how did the naming process work? I'm sure you both heavily influenced into that, but was that a mutual discussion amongst the original, the OG supporter group members, or how did that name come into existence?
Originally, we were thinking plenty of names right off the bat. Some of them that we were first thinking of, because initially it was just 4 guys, just 4 people that were all interested in the same thing. Some of the ones that we had been drawing up included, it was Hope Union 1636, and of course the year stuck around. Another one was 401 Mafia, because Rhode Island got to include that 401.
The gangsters and Italian mob would have really appreciated that name.
Yeah,
might have been
everyone else did,
well.
And then after that, nobody would want to even come near us. I was
I can't even imagine.
So we were let's scrap that.
I can't even imagine the number of Buddy Cianci tifos you would have had to have put up for the 401 Mafia.
Yeah, thankfully we didn't go for that one. We had a couple other ideas that we threw around. Ones that have been going around was the Apex Army, named around the old Apex building here in Pawtucket. But then we decided that this team is Rhode Island FC, so we should be deciding something that includes all of Rhode Island. And it's difficult because you need something to include the entire state, and you can't just call it Rhode Island Supporters Group. You can't just go that route and make it all simple. You have to be creative with it. Be creative with a way to include everybody in the state. And that's pretty much, we've had going around in circles for a bit until we had a discussion when we opened up our Discord server with a bunch of people with the same interests. And initially we were going to go for Hope in our name, but we twisted that to be Defiance because you can just have hope. You can have hope for something. But we chose to go with the name Defiance in the end.
Here's why defiance is an important kind of word that we used. So we, as a small state, always gets like kind of like anything. We were always bullied in the circle of New England sports. Like all of our sports teams were either pipelines or sister clubs of bigger ones in Massachusetts. So the Providence Bruins are the Boston Bruins sister club. Then at the time, the Paw Sox were the Red Sox in Boston. And then after that, what else did we have? We had like the college teams that we argued over. So it's like Rhode Islanders just argued amongst themselves because of colleges. We didn't really have a team to hate. We didn't have a rivalry. We didn't have anything like that to actually call our own. So what is the one thing that we always do as a small state? Well, we defied the odds. We defied the odds, and we always persevere of ourselves. We are a local community that is hardworking, very Central American, South American, European, Asian infused place. So we're very much inclusive to that area. So we defy the odds. The same way our community defies the odds every single day, coming to America and becoming U.S. citizens, or just basically just being Rhode Islanders and calling this place home. They just defy the odds. So defiance becomes that word where, yeah, I'm defiant, I'm Defiance. And then of course the year is when Rhode Island was founded. And then, you know what? That's a beautiful way to just point it down. It's like, we are Defiance.
Little state, big attitude, right? Good times. Did you guys know that Brett Johnson thought your name would be the Bucket Brigade?
Why? Because we're from so that actually came around too. Like, that name
So you have heard that name.
So of course, on Twitter it was like, oh, you should call yourself the Bucket Brigade. I'm like, but we're not all from Pawtucket. I mean, we're playing in the bucket for sure. For those of you that don't know, that are listening outside of Rhode Island, the bucket is Pawtucket because of the name. And of course, some people say that we're shaped like a bucket, and I don't see it.
Listen, all I know is if we ever do make the McCoy thing work, and we end up in some sort of like tournament baseball style instead of like a minor league, Savannah Bananas, Pawtucket Buckets, like, let's talk.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not opposed to that. Honestly, that'd be pretty funny to see. And
but you knew of the name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you made sure that did not make it in the running for the supporter group brand.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of things that went with it with the supporter group. I mean, the logo took longer than the name. Like, we had like a Defiance style font for our name. Before we had that logo, we just called ourselves just Defiance1636, and then our name written out in this like fancy lettering was like Old English basically. Was our like logo for a while. And then of course like the logo entailed like, oh, we should put a lighthouse because we didn't want to do like an anchor because the team was already doing an anchor.
Thanks.
So like,
appreciate that. Yeah,
I'll stop. You're fine. That makes sense because your name, the name, it's in there. But we already had a name, Defiance. What's the anchor have to do with Defiance? So we were just going through so many things, and then finally we had a 4-way call with the designer Tim, and we said, okay, here's what we have. We liked what we have now, and then there was also secondary logos that we use, and now we have like other logos, like the 1636 with the 13 stars that represents Rhode Island, the Rhode Island stars on our flag. So we were like, oh, you know what, that's perfect. And the best thing is that like if you go back in history, we're a small state just like the tugboats. We are small but mighty because we haul the biggest of like ships. So we're small but we're pretty tough. And that logo is like the shape of the tugboat doors of the old
logo
ones.
The minute he made that comment.
So when we were like, oh, that's it, that's our logo, then let's call it. And then finally we released it, and people fell in love with it to the point where people thought we are the team, and we said, oh, they renamed themselves. Oh, that's pretty cool. So one comment that was pretty funny was like, oh, why is it that the supporter group name and logo look way better than the teams? Oh. So we're like, damn. I was like, well, Tim, you might. So I told my designer, you might want to call them. We can settle you a job. But shout out to the guys at RISD.
Done not to.
You haven't heard this yet, but we did a story on Miles Dumas, who built the Rhode Island FC logo. So Miles is a listener of the podcast, and he's probably
So those might be fighting words now. So yeah, we're gonna have to take that back.
Yeah, get on it. Tim versus Miles. Let's get it on.
But I will be honest. Like, your logo is amazing. Your launch was probably the most impressive of any supporter group I've ever seen. So job well done on that, and thanks for the backstory on how that came to be.
Thank you. The launch happened, it was a couple months ago in April, right here in this room that we're sitting right now. We had an event presenting the logo. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. That's awesome. So, obviously, a supporter group, you support the team. But within your group, do you guys have like a, let's say, purpose, or you could call it a mission statement that you guys like follow through?
We actually, before we even decided the name, the logo, any of that, we wanted 3 kind of pillars that would set us down going forward. And those would be, we decided on 1, to support RAFC, of course. 2, to grow local soccer. And 3 would be to unite the community. So those are all of our 3 missions that we considered when deciding the name, logo, and all of the operations that happened after that point.
Those are some audacious goals to set forth. I mean, growing soccer. Okay, I mean, that's a partnership across all avenues within the sport itself. But how do you feel? Do you have a blueprint to those yet, or is that something that we'll see marching to 2024?
So we know that we weren't going to be doing it in like year 1, where we're going to be like, oh, we just succeeded on what our plans was. It's going to take time with stuff like that. I think our ambition is that we're tired of certain groups saying that we want to change Pawtucket, we want to do differently in Pawtucket, and then they're the ones that also don't do anything. They're the ones that complain online. They're the ones that like have the most to say but don't do the little parts. So we're, with the love of soccer that we have and the love of our community, because we both grew up here, regardless of where we're from, regardless of what our heritage is, this is our home. And hopefully, I mean, like whatever happens, we're always going to be drawn to Rhode Island. I sure as hell love Rhode Island, regardless of what people say. I mean, there's some parts, of course, we're the salty state. Like, we're going to be mad about little things, that and potholes. But we love our community, so we want to help it. So it is going to take some time. We're gonna try our best to do our mission statement, but so far we have made it open for artists in the area, regardless of age or skill, to help us make banners, which is what Anchor Artistry is. And then La Banda Rhode Island is to help local musicians just come and play drums, come and play the trumpet, come and play trombone, just have fun at a game and not feel like they have to do it in a certain way. Just come and mess around. Yeah, so we want people to be united in some way, and what better way uniting people than soccer, which is of course, again, the beautiful game that's played everywhere. Everyone loves soccer, and I know that Americans are starting to love it even more. But of course, in our area, where it's predominantly Hispanic and Latino, they already love it. They know it's already in their hearts. So of course, if this is a way to support a team and also help the community they live in, why not? Agreed.
So, Joe, you mentioned that you had your unveiling party in this very room that we're sitting in to record today. But how did you end up calling Craft Burgers and Beer home of the Defiance?
We were going around thinking of multiple bars. We knew that it had to be in Pawtucket because one of the things we had planned for was having a march from our home bar and going down to where the stadium would be, Tidewater. So we were looking around. We had a couple considerations. One of them that was thrown up a lot was Murphy's, which is a bit of a walk.
That's downtown Providence, Murphy's, right?
No, there's a Murphy's over here in Pawtucket.
Oh, not the... Okay, I know what you're talking about.
There's a different Murphy's.
It's the one that's right across
the one by the hotel there.
Yeah. So we were considering all these different bars, and one of them that popped up was Crafts. So our plan was to come in here. It was me and Irvin. We came in here, and we planned to see what the food was like, see what the place was like. And I know from the minute I walked in and saw the scarves on the wall from all these different European teams and the Chelsea and Spurs supporter groups that also have their home here, they have that in their pedigree, I walked in here and saw that. I was like, yep, we found it. We found our home. Not to mention that it's really close to the stadium. The stadium will be.
You get up, walk to that window, you'll see the stadium.
Yeah.
Like, it's legit right down there. And then, like, they even told us, too, like, oh, yeah, it's like, as soon as you walk out of the parking lot, just walk down the hill, you're right in front of the gate.
So I the reason I asked that is if it was location based. So I understand that there's also an additional soccer pedigree here, and for Chelsea and Liverpool, was it Liverpool you said?
Spurs.
Yeah. Oh, Spurs.
Spurs.
So for Chelsea and Spurs fans, if you don't already know this is the happening space. But I guess I'd ask, like, outside of home game days, will this also be the intended kind of away game location center to watch games and to show up for attendance?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we want to branch out to different locations for sure to help that's one of the big goals. That's just why we go to different businesses, is to see, hey, where else can we do away games? Because it's easy, just put on ESPN Plus and just turn on RIFC and just watch the game with your friends. We've already reached out to Moniker. We've already reached out to even like food trucks that have like their own stationary place. Like, we'll just bring a projector and then, like, stream it from our phones and just set up there. So we have other places that we definitely want to help out. Even the German American Association has already said, hey, you can use our dining hall, which we come and do and watch Bayern Munich games and other German soccer games. You can watch your games here if you'd like to as well. And they've been more than welcoming to having us do games. So we do want to do it at different places to help out the local community, but this will be our home hub for home games, except for 2024, which we'll be doing at a bar that's actually like a walking distance to Bryan.
Do you know the name of the bar, or can you share that yet?
Parentes, yeah. So Parentes has been pretty cool, and even the guy, when we went in there, we gave him a flag. Oh, I'm going to hang this up right now. So he was like, oh, okay, cool. He said, like, just give me the schedule. I'll make sure those days we'll have a back room for you guys. So the guy has been nothing but like, I can't wait till game days. I can't wait till this place starts rocking, making noise, because he knows he's going to be making a lot of profit on this, and he's going to be bringing in more customers. But it also, again, helps a small business. So that's the mentality that we have. As long as we're helping them and we're promoting their stuff as well, that gives back to our community, and it gives people to say, hey, what's going on over there? Let's join up.
That's awesome. So far, how would you guys say your relationship with the FO is?
It's been pretty good with them so far. I don't want to beat around the bush and say that it's been easy trying to get a meeting with them. We just recently had a meeting with them, and I think it was good that we got the time we did, but it was difficult at first. They said that they would meet up with us in March. Nothing came because they were still hiring people. And then time went by. We just let them do their thing. Finally, we got the meeting with them, and it took a while. But it's been good. We invited Brett Louie here for our event, and he was more than happy to kind of answer our questions from what he can tell us. He wasn't going to spill the beans out completely, but he told us what he could tell us. Then he told us more at the meeting. A lot of things that we wanted to hear, a couple things that we didn't kind of like about the posture of what we wanted to do. But then again, that's just going to be the relationship with them. They're not gonna like everything we do. We're not going to like everything that they do. So we have to just come up with a middle ground and like just come up with that. But other than that, they literally thrown their numbers at me, like, email me, call me, text me if you need anything. Just we're like a phone call away. So we want to make sure that we're on their butts a lot, so that they know, like, hey, we're serious. Like, we're not gonna like mess around. We're just gonna be like, oh yeah, do your time, do your thing. No, if we need something from you guys, just know we're gonna text you guys. So that's the one thing that like is a relationship with them. Like, they know that we're not affiliated with them. We're your supporter group, so we want you guys to be held accountable with a couple things. But then again, we also know that you guys are going to want accountability from us as well. So it's a mutual relationship, and hopefully we can grow as we do more meetings with them. But right now it's been pretty straightforward, and they've been very kind to us.
Have you seen any kind of impact so far with your dealings with them?
I mean, so far, nothing yet, because we haven't really asked for too much. We asked the simple questions that everybody on the Discord wanted to know. Ticket affordability, which thankfully today now you can actually see what the affordability is for season tickets. And like I said before, like it's very affordable, very cheap to go to RIFC games for the whole season. But I mean, they've been pretty good so far. I mean, there's no issue.
Still early to tell, maybe.
Still very early to tell. So I can't really like put too much like pressure on them. So like we'll see how the years the months go by.
So no confirmation yet on safe standing behind the goal at Tidewater.
No confirmation yet. I mean, I could probably get the information if somebody if I really try to pry them out of them.
How about this? Better way to ask that question: Are they considering it?
They are actually, because I think a lot of people don't understand what a blessing it is that we actually got delayed. A lot of people are upset, but it actually is a blessing. Because if they would have rushed this, it would have shown. But now that they have time, they can think about, hey, maybe let's talk about putting grass in the stadium. Because before they wanted to do turf. Now they have a chance to actually say, hey, maybe let's weigh our options. Could we do grass? Maybe. Who knows? And then, of course, we've mentioned the safe standing. We want safe standing. So hopefully now that they have it's the blueprints are complete yet. But you know what? Maybe we can actually do that. Why not? So it could be if we get enough people riled up and they see the impact that we've done for 2024, I think that's a no-brainer that they should do that.
So really, it's your safe standing space to lose, right?
Pretty much.
If Defiance doesn't.
But if they put chairs on it and they tell us assigned seating, guess what? We're still gonna make noise.
Stand on those.
We're gonna stand on those damn chairs. Yeah. So.
Awesome. So I think kind of moving into a pause from Tidewater for a second and a really deep dive focus. You've already mentioned the ticket prices for the inaugural season. What are your feelings so far on Bernie Stadium being the selected site for the club's opening season? Do we think that was executed correctly by the front office? Do we think that there was a better site? Are you guys excited? Like, what are your feelings on Bernie?
It's very mixed feelings because obviously us with a lot of people, we were going into the season with the idea that, hey, we're going to be at Tidewater, we're going to have our own thing, and a lot of people who are going to support RAFC, like 90% I'd say, if not more, who have been previously Revs fans, and you know how the whole thing is with Gillette, and it's a huge stadium, so even if you get this huge crowd, it's still going to look tiny in, the grand scheme of things at Gillette. So a lot of people went into RAFC like, okay, they're going to have a stadium, this is something different, this is something that they're going to have to one-up the Revs. But in the end, it didn't work out. It's unfortunate, but us as a group, all we can do is continue moving forward, and we're still getting a team next year. That's bottom line. We're still going to have our own team next year. So as soon as they said, okay, we can't finish Tidewater, we're going to look at other options. We were thinking, okay, maybe they're going to play at Piercefield, what is it called? Right?
Piercefield in East Providence.
In East Providence, where the Stingrays played, and say, okay, it has some history behind it, but I think that fell through because the condition wasn't the pitch length as well wasn't fit for, USL soccer. This is a professional team that's going to be coming here. We were also thinking about Brown, URI, all these stadiums. The issue was the pitch length, and it just didn't work out. But in the end, they decided on Burn Stadium, and we're like, okay, this could actually work out.
Do you think it will hurt season ticket deposit people who
honestly
were looking for Tidewater as the first experience? Like, I mean, what is your impression of that?
To be honest, it's not ideal, and I think people are in the same way that, okay, maybe we'll hold off till they have their own stadium to see how everything plays out. And I think some people are in that ballpark with RAFC. And it is unfortunate, but what we can do, it's our job to show that, okay, even though we are at a different stadium, we're still going to give an amazing experience that you won't get elsewhere in Rhode Island, and definitely not in Foxborough. We're going to do all this to show that it's not ideal, but hey, it's what we got, and we're going to make the most of it. We're going to show that it's still better than a lot that you're going to find elsewhere.
So do you think this is still a win, though? I mean, my concern looking at it for the casual fan, because I'm looking for the person that wouldn't be listening to this podcast or being connected to Defiance1636 is, I don't want to go to Smithfield for the day to watch a soccer game. It's the same reason they wouldn't go to Foxborough to watch the Revolution. Do you think that is a factor, or do you think that it's just the stadium in general?
So when they announced Bernie, me and Kevin actually went, which is, if for those that don't know, Kevin is our third board member. We call him the Suit. So he's the guy who does all the official stuff, like like the presenting himself as the way
He's our
corporate people. He's our corporate guy, so that's where he is. But we actually went to Bernie Stadium to just kind of get the lay of the land, take some pictures with our battle flags, take pictures with our banner and our flag. And to be honest, when we went there, we looked around and we were like, you know what? I could see this working. I mean, it's a small stadium for sure, but it reminds me of a old English stadium. It's like, if you ever seen those like English stadiums that have like 2,000 to 5,000 seats, like it looks pretty much the same way. You're very close to the pitch. You'll be very interactive with the players and coaches. Like, if you say something to the guys in the pitch, they're gonna hear you. They're gonna hear you. So that environment is what is missed at Gillette Stadium. And of course, what we're going to be bringing to the table, that noise, the smokes, the battle flags, the drums, that's going to, in a small stadium like that, it's going to make noise. You're going to hear that drum from the highway, for crying out loud. So like, I feel like while it is a loss that we're not going to get Tidewater, just like I said before, I think it's best that we don't rush things. And because if you rush things, like anybody, you've asked anybody, you rush things, it's gonna become sloppy. But if you take your time and you make a beautiful thing beautiful, it's gonna look great. So like, I feel like people need to have that positive mindset. To some people, this is like a win for them. Oh my God, it's not gonna happen. We know we deal with these naysayers almost every day. That think this is a failed project. But to me, I think that this is just them taking precaution, making sure that they don't disappoint the fans, the diehards like us. Because I mean, I'm not gonna like say that like, I'll be happy to stay in Bernie forever. No, you better give us this stadium. And I've said this, like, you better hold up to your promise, because otherwise you're proving the naysayers that we've been defending you against right. That this was all just an elaborate scheme, and it might not be a scheme, and then you guys probably just don't have the money for it. Find the money. You guys can definitely find investors for a new club. But if you go to Bernie Stadium right now and you walk around the pitch, you'll understand why we think that this isn't a bad deal. And once they start putting in the bleachers that they're doing, making it look RIFC, make it look the way that it's supposed to look, guess what? You're gonna be like, this is pretty cool. I've already said it too. It's gonna look great. Right now, it looks like a college stadium, but it's going to look like our home for a while. And it's only 1 year. It's not going to kill you.
So this is our temporary home. Have they told you whether or not you guys are going to have your own dedicated seating? Like, do you know where in the stadium you're going to be positioned at this point?
Yeah, so we were actually worried about that because, our enemies up in Hartford are, like, in the middle, like a bunch of goobers. And so like that was like, oh man, if they put us like Hartford, it's going to drive me nuts. So thankfully at the meeting, we said like, please tell me you're putting us behind the goal. And they said, yes, they're putting us behind the goal. We don't know if it's going to be like standing or if it's going to be like seats. We don't know that yet. But regardless, like I said before, if they have us in a bleacher area where there's seats, that's fine. If they don't have bleachers on it, it's all standing, then that's cool too. We'd prefer that. But at the end of the day, we're just happy that we're behind the goal. We're where we're supposed to as a supporter group, and we're going to make the noise. We're going to scare the opposing goalkeeper, and we're going to support our goalkeeper to make sure that he knows that we're the 12th man, and we're going to show you some noise, basically. So, and then when that other guy comes to our side, you're going to hear some things. So it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
From a seating and ticketing perspective, do you guys have any control or partnership with the club in the sense that, like, how we talked about, casual fans, maybe they might see those tickets and, like, if they just show up and not knowing what they're getting themselves into, you know what I mean? So that you guys can kind of keep your own together so that you can bring the noise.
Honestly, it's a bit of a worry to say that those are the cheapest seats available, and it might not be a huge difference from the next ones available like it is with the Revs. That's why you see a lot of kind of casual fans, families in the fort, which is their supporters section, not knowing what they're kind of getting themselves into. Just because they go on, they see the cheapest seats and they're like, okay, I'll go for this, and they just don't know what they're getting themselves into. So we're fearing the same thing here, to some degree, but we can also kind of see this as an opportunity to grow from people who wouldn't be here otherwise. Like, if these are the only seats that someone can choose, and they find out, okay, this is actually something that I enjoy being a part of. Drums, okay, I'm all for that. Hey, give me a flag. I'll be here next week.
Yeah, it's converting that casual fan that maybe stumbled upon our section because it's the only ticket available and they really wanted to come to game.
Especially for when Messi shows up.
Yeah, when Messi comes to the Open Cup and he plays us. Yeah,
section.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've had issues about that too. We're gonna take a playbook of what St. Louis did. There will be no opposing team colors. If you're gonna sit with us, you better come.
No Argentine colors.
No Argentine. Well, that's the one thing I had a problem with. I mean, it's a national team thing, so you can't really take apart a national thing. Like, no one's gonna stop me wearing a Guatemalan jersey in our section, but most of the time I'm gonna be wearing an IFC jersey.
Guatemalan. So what is that? A pescadito? Is that your most famous Guatemalan?
Yeah, now it's a lot of new. It's the younger generation.
I wonder who has a pescadito jersey in Rhode Island.
We gotta find them. We gotta find them.
Invited.
But like, yeah, we just want we're gonna make sure that we tell the team like, hey, you better make sure that your ticket reps know like if they're gonna sit with us, they better expect this. But before every game, I have a plan where I'm gonna be like, hey, thank you guys for joining us. This is what to expect. We're gonna have signs in front of our little stands so that they know this is what to expect, so that they at least have they embrace themselves and maybe even say, oh wow, this is where I'm sitting. Okay, cool. Let's give me something to do. Who knows? Just like he said, give me something to do. So that's what we want to do, and hopefully we don't steer away people. But in the end of the day, we're not going to change who we are to make certain people comfortable. If you don't want to sit with a supporter group, read the sign, supporter group section. If you don't know what that means, Google's free.
Blast the impact horn right in their face, right?
Right. Like, exactly. Yeah, it's like El Grito, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we're here to make noise, you know what I mean? Like, so like bring the noise. So like that's what we're here for. And if you don't want to bring the noise, that's fine. I know they've said that there will be areas where people can stand and watch the game. So like they're trying to make it comfortable so that we have our own thing and they have their own thing. And they've told us that they're going to make sure everybody knows that you're going to get the right group the right group of people come to your section. So there you go.
Do you guys have a name for that section? Or are you guys kind of kicking around some ideas about what you want to call it?
They're calling us Section 13 for now, but right now
isn't that a sci-fi movie?
Section
District 13?
District 13, yeah. You know what's crazy? I mean, isn't that the one with like the squid face?
The aliens and
that's
Lovecraft.
Yeah,
that's a Lovecraft thing. So we can be like the Cthulhu section. But like Kevin has been throwing around like, dude, I want to be like a jail. Let's call ourselves D Block. I'm like, how about we don't? But he's been throwing it around like this is the guy who also was so obsessed with saying up the tide to the point where now the team is like, well, we've been seeing it on Twitter and I think we might have to use it because all of our other ones.
We try to broadcast it every time we make messages
so it's like,
for you.
Son of a gun, he really did it. I can't believe it. We all thought he wasn't going to do it. But now up the tide is now
D Block, again, that's
exactly.
Interesting. What are will you leave it to a vote for your supporters group members? Will it be something organic that happens?
Definitely
will you establish?
Definitely organic. We don't want to force things. I mean, we didn't force up the tide. It was literally Kevin that just came up with it, and this was before he was in the board, so like he came up with it himself. Just
find a sponsor that's willing to fund all of Defiance's activities and call it the Defiance Block, supported by government.
No. Definitely not. If we're gonna name ourselves, it's gonna be something like for us. It's not gonna be like D Block sponsored by Budweiser or something like that. Like, no, get that out of here.
All right. Well, I think that's a great spot to conclude part 1 of the Defiance 1636 introduction to our listeners. So stay tuned for next time where we will conclude with part 2 of our interview with these fine individuals.
What an incredible conversation so far. I mean, obviously we know the whole conversation since we were there for both parts 1 and 2, but
don't tell them about time travel.
But what a lot of fun so far. So do you think were Joe and Irvin exactly who you thought they'd be?
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, it's first time meeting Joe. Seems a cool guy. We've met Irvin a few times, but it was nice to sit down and like really have a deep dive and kind of get his story and really kind of figure out who Defiance are, like as a group, and like who they want to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you could have picked two more passionate people to really spearhead. And I think there's some other founders that we'll probably be able to get a chance to talk to at a later date. But for those two individuals, they're so excited to talk about Rhode Island FC, about Defiance 1636, and just soccer in general. And I didn't even know there was a Guatemalan connection there, like that, but that they knew each other as Guatemalans in a different supporters group. Like it's just like a fun story.
Even from like the same area, which is crazy.
Yeah, like what are those chances? Like that's like almost as good as El Paso Locomotive winning the title this year at this point. So tying it all back in. But yeah, so listeners, look forward to part 2 on our next week's episode. So kind of same format, and we just really excited to bring the rest of that conversation to you. What are some of the events that are going on in Rhode Island FC right now?
All right. So RIFC will be at Brown on Saturday, September 16th, watching the Brown Bears play the Bryant Bulldogs at 7 p.m.
If we were to go like just like the mascot alone, like a bulldog stands no chance against a bear. I mean, I don't stand a chance against a bear.
Yeah, it's going to have to like a really big bulldog.
like what is it, Hulk? The famous like squat pit bull bulldog-esque thing that like is like 400 pounds.
All right, we got some Defiance stuff coming up here too.
A lot of Defiance stuff, actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's some active guys there. Monday, September 4th, Defiance 36 will be attending a match between URI versus Providence. So that's the Rams versus the Friars.
And again, Friars, they're not even combatants, right? Like they're peace-loving, unless it's like Little John from Robin Hood, like not a fighting. Don't tell the college that, but not a fighting group. And I think this also wraps up their soccer tour, right? Because they've had a couple other events at other locations where they've been attending soccer matches through the month of August. So that's exciting to see them kind of conclude that with the URI Providence game.
Yeah, but they got one more thing going on here. Sunday, September 10th, they're going to be at the Festival Guatemala at Roger Williams Park. So they're going to have a tent there if you want to come say hi to them.
And now that I know that those are Guatemalan gentlemen, like that makes more sense now. Like I'm sure they're going to be really passionate at that point. And then, they do also have the Defiance attending McCoy's final inning, right, in Pawtucket Stadium, where if it doesn't get canceled for weather for like the 9th time, they'll be sending off the stadium with a fireworks show, and I think it runs from like 3 to 9:30 or something like that. But I think it's a great opportunity for, Defiance, or if Rhode Island FC shows up to that one, we haven't had that confirmed yet, just to kind of like take in and show people who, whether it's nostalgia, it's just the fireworks, or they miss sport in Pawtucket. I think it's a great conversion opportunity for those fans to go, hey, you know what? Baseball's gone, but I've got something else I can go watch now. So really, really good call on them to show up to that and kind of like hand off the legacy, if you will, from McCoy to Tidewater. So that's really cool that they're going and doing that.
Yeah, closing a chapter and starting a new one.
What is it? When every time a door closes, a window opens, or something like that. Awesome. So, do we have any listener questions?
Of course we do.
It's always 2, by the way. I don't know if these people are
send them in pairs.
You can send more than 2 questions. You can ask more than 2 questions if you want, by the way.
All right. So we got one here from Tim. Why did you name yourself Raising Anchor?
Oh, man. I don't think we're ready to give the full story here. That might be in the Patreon special at a later date. But I can say that when Jason and I started working on the project, we wanted to keep it nautical themed because there's an anchor in the logo. I can say we worked up some other naming options, and one of them we maybe started registering things to, and it was already trademarked.
Too soon.
But I can say that Raising Anchor, if you Google it, since we're not the top search yet, we will be one day. It has a couple different meanings. So raising an anchor is a ship starting its voyage, taking off. It's a sailing term, which is very much a part of Rhode Island history and culture. And like when you think about it, like I'm going to get some sort of foam anchor that is like a celebration. Maybe Rhode Island FC will make it, and then they'll put their logos on it, and then it's theirs. Again, Rhode Island FC, take notes. You can have this one for free too. But I'm going to just hold up an anchor as like a foam finger. That's my foam finger at the stadium. I'm just going to hold up an anchor to celebrate. So that's where the name came from. There were a lot of different options, but we wanted to make sure that it tied in kind of loosely associated to the club, and then also kind of had a roots and history in Rhode Island's rich maritime history. So that's the short answer, and then one day we'll share the completely ridiculous story of what we first were calling ourselves and how important it is to do so many different checks on things when you start a podcast.
A lot of work behind the scenes that not everyone knows about that goes on to get this done.
A lot. What's that other question that we got today?
All right, and Eric here wants to know, what teams did you like before RFC?
Oh
man, trying to call us out.
I'm not ready to share that either. Like I don't want to lose our 5 listeners that we have. Can I answer the question but like really obscurely to like a politician would? Can I say like I'm actually a Plymouth Argyle fan in League 2? I think they just got promoted to
The first time you played FIFA and you did your creative player,
Plymouth Argyle.
That's
why I'm a Plymouth Argyle fan.
Okay. My first guy, I ended up on Udinese when Alexis Sanchez was there. And, we won the Serie A that year, definitely.
Did you use the infusion of $1 billion in cash?
No. So I was doing the, the one where it's your player. You're not.
Oh, I do the manager one.
Yeah,
and
I didn't get on
take
that
over the
manager train till a little bit later.
I enjoy the manager. I enjoy the economics of it
to
more.
Kind of like really like get myself into a position. I wanted to just play one position.
Did you play the goalkeeper?
Center defensive mid, of course.
Of course, he says. Oh.
I'm too slow for any other ones,
Even your FIFA character, you made him slow as well.
I made him, similar height and build, so just tall dude.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna dodge that and just say Plymouth Argyle to play it safe for now. I think that's my answer.
I don't want to like dox ourselves. I will say that because I know a lot of the people in the state really like him. I do enjoy watching some Cristiano Ronaldo play. That 2011 to like 2015 Real Madrid was a lot of fun. I don't know if I'd call myself a supporter, but like when they're on, like I'm gonna tune in.
Okay. I've watched my fair share of Classicos, so.
Oh yeah, some of those are just bloodshed.
Oh yeah,
so much fun
with Ray Hudson on the broadcast. You just cannot go wrong with those. So, we've kind of figured that eventually it will come out. Our soccer history and fandom, like that, will come as a natural progression through the podcast time. So we will let that be a natural process. But awesome. Well, hey, it's been a blast getting to talk to you again today. As always, where can the listeners find us?
All right, guys. So we have a Twitter or an X, whatever it is, at RFC Podcast. We're over on Threads at RFC Podcast, Instagram at Raising Anchor, and www.raisinganchorpodcast.com.
Yeah, feel free to give us some love on the socials. I see all of you liking and viewing this stuff, but I don't see anyone commenting. So feel free to get vocal on there and shout the love out from the top of the mountains.
The hatred, though, just keep it.
Send that towards Connecticut. But always a blast, man. Can't wait to do this again with you. Anchors up?
Yeah, anchors up. Catch you next time, buddy.